Other sister. We're just days away from the most interesting OPEC meeting in years, it says here. It comes as the Saudi Aramco IPO prices. A new Saudi energy minister is taking over, and U.S. oil producers are at a dangerous crossroads. Here's Brian Sullivan with a preview.
OPEC meets on Thursday in Vienna, Austria, and this meeting may be one of the most important in years for three big reasons. It's the first meeting with Saudi Arabia's new energy minister, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, one of the sons of the king and half-brother to the crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman. Replacing the former Saudi energy minister with a member of the royal family shows just how important OPEC's choices have become. Equally important to the kingdom, the long-awaited IPO of Saudi Aramco. That offering also prices on Thursday, the day the OPEC meeting begins. Its performance should add another layer of drama to the meeting. And finally, can OPEC move prices higher? Production cuts were extended at the July meeting, but oil hasn't budged. It's been stuck in the mid-50s. That's bad news for U.S. oil producers and their investors, who have all but given up on energy stocks, spooked by heavy debt loads and a struggle to remain profitable at current prices. The biggest oil-related ETF is down 25% since that July meeting, with other stocks down much more. There are very real concerns about a flood of oil-related bankruptcies next year if oil prices don't move higher. Many companies simply can't make any money at current prices.
So the irony, guys, is that, listen, OPEC probably wants prices to move higher, but if they do succeed in doing that, then they might keep the U.S. shale boom going, because with every dollar that goes up, you get a little more free cash flow, and you keep some of these struggling U.S. companies alive. So ironically, OPEC, which I think it's fair to say for years has been a four-letter word for the U.S. oil and gas industry, may be the only group that has the power to save the U.S. oil and gas industry from itself, because as you guys know, there are so many companies that are simply not profitable. I'm going to give you a statistic. I just ran the numbers this morning. There's 78 U.S. oil drilling and services companies that are publicly listed. The combined market cap of all 78 is $1.3 trillion. Aramco's IPO is likely to bring a valuation of $1.6 trillion. Aramco is worth more than all 78 U.S. oil drilling and services companies.
Brian, you think that's a fair valuation for each of them?
On what side?
I was going to say for each of them, or do you think Aramco is overvalued, or do you think the U.S. companies are undervalued? How do you think that plays out?
Well, I think, number one, on the U.S. side, it's all debt. You got to remember, I mean, the oil story, you may not care about OPEC. You may hate fossil fuels. You may say, who cares about these companies? But here's the reality. You probably care about the overall markets, or at least the economy. You got millions of people and hundreds of billions of dollars in debt in the oil and gas industry. So at the minimum, you talk about that. Are they undervalued? Well, the debt is weighing on the market cap. So if you eliminate the debt, you might raise it up. But nobody's saying anything about eliminating the debt yet. On the other side, the Aramco IPO, sure, there are some people that suggest that the valuation may be too high. Aramco could probably make the case that perhaps the valuation is too low. Remember, they wanted $2 trillion, so maybe $1.6 trillion sounds good. You got that pricing literally on the same day of the OPEC meeting with the new energy minister, who is also one of the sons of the king. I think that all shapes up for a pretty important meeting.
Brian, the Saudi IPO looks like an IPO in name only, in the sense that it's just a really tiny portion, a lot of arm twist. I think it's ending up about 0.5%, I think.
0.5% of the companies float, exactly,
yeah,
Tom.
I mean, that's not, an IPO is, yeah, on the London Stock Exchange, the minimum floats 5%, for example, but typically companies float 10% to 20%. So it's not going to have flow. There's a lot of arm twisting to buy the stock. I'm not sure. It really, to me, just looks like a large private deal. I mean, do you think this has any impact on the market over the next couple of days, one way or the other, on the energy market?
No, in a word. But I will say this. Remember, that IPO is pricing on the Tadawul, the local Saudi Arabian exchange. I think the key here, Thomas, listen, you know a lot better than I do, just getting the IPOs going, right? This has been a 2-year process. Yes, the float is minuscule, but getting it out there, having even a sliver of that equity trade, even domestically in Saudi Arabia, I think is sort of a symbolic point for getting the world's largest company. Whatever you think about the valuation, the company is the world's biggest in terms of, cash flow and all these different metrics. Getting it simply going to the market, I think, is a big first step.